Okay, it is 6 p.m., so I will call this meeting of the Christian County Library Board of Trustees to order. Welcome to our meeting. If anyone needs tonight's agenda, it is in the breezeway in the back. But to begin tonight's agenda, we have the consent agenda. Can I hear a motion to approve the items in the consent agenda, or is there anything that needs to be pulled from the consent agenda?
I didn't notice anything. I would move to accept the consent agenda, to accept the minutes.
Second. All right, I will take a roll call vote. Trustee Alexander.
Aye.
Trustee Hagan.
Aye.
Then we'll move into the administrative highlights, racing to read.
I've asked Dana, our Director of Youth Services, to talk a little bit about our early literacy initiative and kind of the, we're gearing up for summer reading stuff, so I thought it would just be a good time to let you know some of the tools that we use to help literacy in the area.
Tori, do we have the slideshow ready?
Yeah.
Thank you. I think most everybody knows me, but my name is Dana. I am the Director of Youth Services for Christian County Library. I've been in the position for a little over 9 years now, and for about 7 or 8 of those years, we've used Racing to Read's early literacy program. Today, Renee asked me to speak about the program. It was started initially by the Springfield Greene County Library System. They actually created it in-house with their own staff. At least over 10 years ago. 2013, I believe, was whenever it was first given to the state library, and the state library has had it as the state's early literacy program for as long as I can remember. I couldn't get an exact date for that one. So we're going to go into the details of what Racing to Read is, but before we do that, early literacy is this really fun word that's kind of hard for me to say sometimes because of my Midwestern accent. But basically what this is pre-reading skills. It's what children need to know about reading and writing before they begin to learn how to read and write. So there's a lot of technical terms, but the main skills that all children should have when they begin learning how to read and write are letter knowledge, print awareness, phonological awareness, narrative skills, vocabulary, and print motivation. So what we do in the library in our story times is we use all of these skills by first training our staff members on them, and then when they're doing the story time, they present tips and tricks to parents on how to model that behavior at home to encourage these skills. So in our story times, we have about 6 family story times per week, 1 baby bounce, and 1 toddler time per week. And we have up to 20 outreach story times that we perform per month. This adds up to around 250 kids a month in our story times and up to 250 adults in our story times. And outreaches that can average about 400 children. In the story times, we're talking directly to kids most of the time, but we're also talking to parents. It can be a little tricky to say, hey, how do you encourage phonological awareness? It's a little hard to do that whenever you're being a little silly with the kiddos. It's also a little bit jargony. It's not exactly something that everybody understands, especially new parents that have not really been around kids a lot. So that's why we use the Racing to Read program. Racing to Read takes these complicated words and it breaks them down into 5 roads of reading. So these 5 roads that we concentrate on are play with letters, sing and rhyme, talk and read, tell stories, and love books. Super easy to do. Everybody understands, oh yeah, I can play with letters with my kids. Oh yeah, I can talk and read with my kids. So I'm going to go down each of these roads really quickly for you and kind of explain why each of these roads are important. So the first road is play with letters. The tagline for this is find print everywhere, play with words and letters. And the main reason behind this is because letters are made of shapes. And if children don't recognize shapes, when they begin to learn how to write, they won't have a general knowledge of how to put that on paper. It's very similar as well to why we encourage coloring and playing with Play-Doh with the kids, making shapes with different objects like sand and salt. We will encourage scribbling on the pieces of paper on our big tables, those kinds of things, making different shapes of different stuff. Letter knowledge is also knowing what letters are different from each other, letter names, letter sounds, and just having that general knowledge before they go on to the teacher who will teach them how to put that into reading and writing. And below that, I did put some tips and tricks that sometimes we will tell parents in the story time. So maybe in the middle of the story time after 2 books and a song, we'll say, when you're at home, point out different letters and signs on the way home, like the stop sign starts with an S, does your child's name start with an S? Having them start to recognize that print in real life. So singing and rhyming is the fun one we get to do, right? There's all kinds of singing and story time. This is basically phonological awareness. We're hearing and playing with smaller sounds and words. And my favorite thing to talk about is how when we're singing nursery rhymes, we're unknowingly picking apart those syllables, right? When we're singing Mary Had a Little Lamb, each syllable is a different note. Children can usually distinguish that note. So they're starting to break down what words are and in sentences and like what exactly does that sound like? How would that work if we were to start writing? We would also say sing songs at home. Nursery rhymes are great. I mean, any songs that you sing at home are going to help them recognize different words. And have fun singing, of course. Having fun is a big part. Talking and reading. This is the obvious one to just talk and read with kids, but it's exploring interesting words. There are so many fun storytime books that we do, like The Napping House, where we're not just exploring the word tired, we're exploring the word slumbering mouse, like a dozing cat, a dreaming child. You know, we're using those different words that mean sleeping, but we're adding those words to a little memory bank because kids are little blank computers and they don't know all these words yet. So we're exploring interesting words. With my staff, we often call them tier 3 words or tier 2 words. Tier 1 would be like and, mom, dad. Tier 2 would be like hear it occasionally but all the time. Tier 3, how often do we use the word doze? Not very much, but we're exposing them to the different words in the story time. And kids keep talking. Tell stories. Telling stories is narrative skills. Obviously, you know, talking and reading is adding vocabulary, but telling stories is helping children realize the beginning, middle, and end to things. We're asking them to retell the story using a felt board. We may read the story, what was it called? The Little Mouse, the Big Bear, and the Red Ripe Strawberry. You know, you might read that book, and then we have the felt board after the story time is over. Children can go up to it and retell the story with their adults. This is narrating your day, asking your child, well, what did we do today? We went to the bank. Oh, where did we go after the bank? Making a beginning, middle, and end for them. And, I mean, my favorite is love books. I think everyone who works at the library loves books, and all of us that are coming to Storytime love books, but it's having fun with the learning experience. It's incorporating books throughout your entire day and your routine, bedtime stories, maybe a nap time story. It might be letting your child control the book, even though we know they're going to destroy them, but board books are made for destroying, so it's okay. Letting a baby chew on a book means they're playing with it and they're having fun and interacting with the book itself. This is, print awareness. They're loving the books, they're seeing where it is. It's print motivation, being interested in and enjoying books. And it doesn't encourage just reading books themselves, but enjoying the learning experience, which is all part of the have fun, right? Length of time is not important on how often you're reading a book or how long it is. It's you're having fun reading the book together. And that when they're going into their formal learning education, they'll be able to remember that and say, oh, learning is fun, this is no big deal. It's a positive experience. So that's our Racing to Read program. All new youth services staff are trained on the program and in these more complicated jargony terms to encourage them to I encourage them to make their own tips whenever they're doing story time. And yeah, it's a pretty fun program. I really love how simple it is and how straightforward it is. And I encourage you guys, if you ever in a story time, keep an eye out for that little tip that staff throw in there. It's kind of on the side usually. You guys have any questions for me?
I have a question. So I like the approach of training staff first. Have you quantified about how many hours that training is for staff, or?
I don't have an exact quantitative number, I would say. It's usually me one-on-one with the new staff person. It involves what is early literacy, just like we talked about here, a more in-depth dive into Racing to Read, viewing a story time by at least 2 different staff members, and then also playing their own story time, getting it approved by me, and then them performing the story time on their own. So it's quite a bit of training, just because I don't like to throw staff in the deep end. It can be a lot for a new staff member who's never performed before, which is story time is basically a performance, to just get plopped down in front of 50 kids and say, okay, go.
I do like that you broke it down so much. In a past life, I was a speech and language pathologist.
Yeah.
And did that in public school systems in a very challenged area in rural Georgia. And I see so many of the techniques we used as therapists, language therapists, to try to get kids taught up who were not exposed. And I see you using that. When you said felt board, I'm like, oh my gosh, how many felt boards I made and cut out,
Yes.
so they could put them together and create their own story. And that interactiveness, I really appreciate that you have so much diversity in here, because every child learns so differently.
Yes.
And offering these different methods, feel a lot of encouragement and reinforcement that you have a chance to really reach the different children that you're dealing with.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Each of our storytime leaders definitely has their own flair, I would say, and it's so fun to see how they take, all this training to see if they really gravitate towards felt boards or puppets or, egg shakers, and how they kind of take on all this information and incorporate it into their story times.
Thank you.
I have kind of an offside question. So this is, I did learn tonight that this was started by Springfield Green County.
Yeah.
I think it's such a great example of, certainly on my time on the board, I've realized kind of what community partnerships we must have as a library outside of Christian and relationships that we have with other libraries. And so it's interesting to see this. The offside part of it is, I know that we've got our summer reading challenge that's starting. So is that something that we also partner with other libraries, or is that Christian County? It's always so well done and so well put together.
The themes are all created by the Collaborative Summer Library Program. It's a independent nonprofit organization we call it CSLP, for short, because it's quite a mouthful. They make all the themes and the artwork, and they do have a manual that they send out for ideas for programs. However, the format of our program on Bean Stack, such as the point system, the minutes read, the tickets, the prizes, activities, that's all done in-house.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you guys.
The CSLP stuff, just having the images is a huge amount.
sure.
Just to create that ourselves would take a lot of time.
Yeah, and it's on social media. Yeah. It's so prevalent on social media, and certainly when it looks nice, more people want to get involved. So, looks fantastic. Okay, so we will move then to old business, to the non-resident patron fee.
Yeah, so we talked, I think it was 2 months ago when I first brought this up, to look at updating our non-resident fee. I did some math. So I talked to the county clerk first to see if she had any numbers of how they quantify what the average taxpayer or a median taxpayer pays, and she didn't have that specific. They don't use their information in that way, so I just looked at the amount of residential taxes estimated to be collected, and then broke it down by census numbers, and ended up with a higher number than I was expecting. So if you look at household, which is how we give those non-resident patron cards at, the average household would be paying $80 in real and personal property tax combined. So since we're charging $20 right now, that feels like a real big jump. And I had some discussions with staff about just their thoughts on increasing this. So I think from their perspective, and I think my recommendation too, although I'm open to your thoughts, would be to increase it to maybe that $40 or $45 mark for 2025, to maybe implement to January 1st, and then revisit in 2 years and increase it again, to do it incrementally until we get up to what we would consider the average payment here in Christian County.
In your math, you said you took the residential taxes divided by the census. Was that library holders in Christian County or the census and?
Census,
and-
yeah.
Yeah. okay.
Yep, so, and it's 2022 census, so, in 2023 taxes, so it's like a little bit a year behind, but as close as I have actual numbers for. And I did try to find, like the median, according to census, a median home value in Christian County is like $229,000 for 2022. So if the property taxes on that for just real would be right at $80, so not including personal property, which I have no way to know like what the average car value is of a Christian County resident. So it feels pretty close to even median, so I think median might be a better value than average, but that's the best I can come at, so.
I don't recall if, and I didn't bring my notes from the last meeting, so I may be asking a repetitive question. The non-resident, is there a prevalence of where they are coming from? Are they coming from the south? Are they coming from the north? Is there a prevalence?
I don't have exact numbers. We do have some Greene County cardholders that have cards in both, and we're guessing they mostly use a lot of digital content. We do have some a lot of Douglas County that come to the Sparta area, and they have not real full-fledged library services there, if at all. We have some Stone County too, so I think a little bit of everything.
Because I'm thinking the median house price in the counties to the east, south, and west is certainly not $229,000.
Right.
I mean, Greene County, yeah, but we've got so much rural surrounding us.
Right.
And since the Christian County library system did build Sparta and did establish on the other side, Clever.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been a lifeline to people, and I don't know if it's time to propose a price, but I would at this time, I would put a motion to put the fee at $40 for this next year, to see that maybe take some more statistics on where they're coming from, how much they use, if we can gather statistics on it, and then to judge if we want to make a bigger jump. But anyway, I guess my motion is that we raise the fee to $40 at this time.
Are we able to implement, and I wasn't at the meeting, so I wasn't part of the conversation, and so if this was asked, then just let me know, but I'm thinking about, I think I shared with you, my daughter was trying to download some things from Hoopla and couldn't because we'd reached our cap. And so when I think about maybe patrons that are coming from Greene County where they do have library services available to them, then $40 seems reasonable. But when I think about those that are in smaller communities where Sparta is the closest library to them and they don't have library services in their home county, $40 could be quite a lot.
It could be complicated, and it would be frontline staff that are kind of managing, like, where do you live? Here's your, menu to choose from. It's hard to manage now, so I would be hesitant to do that, but I'm open to looking at it. There are some libraries in the state and even around the nation that do that have something like that, or may consider if they have reciprocal agreements with other nearby counties where they have it's $20 for each of them in those counties, or if the nearby county doesn't have a county system, then they have a lower fee, but it would be hard to manage, I think.
My thought on the 40 is we pay $40 a month for internet service in Sparta with the system that our household uses. That's every month. This is $40 for an entire year, which broken down is really quite, if they need to use that service, they want to come use the library, being allowed to have access to the service, because they don't have the option of getting internet in a lot of these places. And if they are wanting to use the benefits, I would think $40 for a family for a year would really be quite reasonable, knowing how much they can have access to print and online material, books, whatever. I would think that would be an investment. If I was living more rural, I would be willing to make for a year's commitment.
Is there, for children that are in school, in a Christian County school, do they have access even if they don't live outside, or if they don't live in Christian County?
Potentially, depends upon the school. I mean, we do some of the library card drives, they still have to get, parental permission and everything, the schools manage that, but I think there's the potential for that, yes. But I don't know how many children that is, because that would be, I think there's a little bit of that in maybe Chadwick. I don't know, I'd have to look, I don't know if you know off the top of your head. Okay. And we could look into that.
I was just thinking as
see,
another
but
option. I'm
yeah.
trying to think, for those, $40 would have been a lot to me,
Yep.
Before, when I was going to school in Greene County and I wanted a Greene County library card, I could not have afforded $40 at the time. Granted, minimum wage was very different than it is now. But, so that's just what I'm trying to consider. Are there
Yep.
all options for?
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
Is the short answer.
Well, it breaks down to $3.33 a month.
And that's for the household, so.
That's for the whole household. And I bet you they stop at Get 'em Out and doing a cup of coffee. I mean, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
be money grubbing.
Right.
But if this is a priority, I've been in your place. We've had our business burned down. We've lost everything. You choose what you want to pay money for and what you don't.
Yeah.
$3.33, obviously the coffee and the Diet Pepsi and everything went out the door, but that's one day a stop at a McDonald's or, like I said, for a pop, bag of Cheetos, whatever. It at $3.33 a month, I really feel that's fairly reasonable. And it might be considered the option that they pay biannually, $20 in January and then $20 in August, maybe, if that's an issue.
Second.
Okay.
I don't want to interrupt
No,
good discussion.
yeah, thank you. Okay, so,
Can I clarify the
to
timing?
clarify, the motion
Yeah.
is $40 to begin at the beginning of 2025, January 1.
I motion that non-resident patron fee is $40 at starting the year of 2025. And if a person, family, claims a hardship for $40, that we can break it down to $20 for the first 6 months and $20 for the second 6 months.
Is that too specific? Do we need to?
Would you
I
like me
would
to back
prefer
off?
it to be general, and it's up to you. That will be kind of logistical that I think we would need to figure out.
Well, then
How
maybe
we can
discuss
do
that
that.
before we have a second.
Could we, is this something you would want to table for next month?
I had a different question.
Oh, go for it.
While we're thinking on that one, what's the communication strategy to these people to just, proactively
Yep.
communicate and not surprise anyone
Yep.
negatively?
Like a
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is why I think
I'm sure there is
January-
one in place. I just didn't know. what that was.
January is a
Excellent
good
question.
place. I think the plan, we haven't developed a solid plan, but my goal would be for those we have emails for, email them ahead of time. And those we don't have, we can mail letters to with in probably like a 3 months advance notice, so by September-ish, October-ish.
And I was thinking
give
that,
them
yeah,
a
that
heads
messaging, that would be valuable insight to why this is going
Yep.
up, not just, to
Surprise.
irrelevantly,
Yeah.
but
Well-
because this is a cost to taxpayers of Christian County, and therefore
Right.
it's appropriate to pay for the services that are being used. So I think
And
that
also,
messaging will help.
yeah, having Clever and having Sparta, having things that are closer for many of the people to reach is to invest into the building of the libraries and what the community is trying to do with outreach.
And I would say to your concern about the spreading the cost over, like we always work with people on anything financial when it comes
Okay.
to fines or stuff, so
So I will
That's kind
rework my motion.
built in already.
So for the third time now, we will try this.
We'll get it.
Thank you for your patience, and I really appreciate hearing everybody. It's good to hear from everybody, work as a team. I propose that, I motion that the non-resident patron fee be increased to $40 beginning January 1st, 2025.
Second.
All right, I will take a roll call vote then. Trustee Alexander.
Aye.
Trustee Hagan.
Aye.
Excellent. Okay. It's not a small decision. It could be a big decision, so I'm
Yeah,
happy
thank
that
you
we're able to
for
have that.
mathing, well done.
Yes. All right, on to new business. Also, a very important conversation, employee health insurance lien renewal.
Lost that page.
It should be the very last
I know.
page.
Of course, move them all
A
around.
little bit on it.
You can have mine.
I know I have it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I was hoping we would have a little bit lesser of an increase this year because we had a big jump last year, but we had an 11% increase in premiums this year again. So I have kind of 4 scenarios here for you. The one I highlighted, scenario 2, is what I'm recommending, and that's based upon looking at our numbers. Mary and I kind of worked together on figuring out what we felt we could do without being too stressed out about paying the bills. So we talked last year, we changed last year how we handle paying for premiums, both for the employees and their dependents, the ones that have dependents on medical, dental, and vision. So we had been just requiring employees contribute a set amount for themselves and for the dependents. And we switched last year to covering 100% of employee coverage for medical and dental, and then paying a percentage of their dependent coverage. So that percentage will mean their costs will increase as ours increase. And then making vision optional for everybody so that we're not just flat paying for vision for everybody. And a lot of people were on vision that weren't using it, some were, some weren't, but it's a more minimal cost at like $8 or so. So the scenario 1 doesn't change anything, but as the goal last year we talked about was to kind of gradually do some increases to that dependent coverage or dependent cost sharing so that it could be more sustainable for the library as a whole. So scenario 1 kind of keeps everything as it is. The impact would be just that passing along that percentage increase. It's the same percentage, but because the costs go up, their individual cost increases. Scenario 2 changes that we cover only the employee dental at 100%, and then the employee covers 100% of their dependents' dental. So it doesn't change their percentage of the medical share for the dependent. So I put the numbers there that for that dental, depending upon the person and how many people in their family and who in their family they're covering, that could be a $40 to an $86 a month increase to them, along with the $17 to $25 per month for the medical increases. So that is about $23,000 more than we projected, but we feel like the personnel budget can absorb that because of a few things that have come in lower so far this year. The third scenario would make the dental the same as scenario 2, but then also increase the share of the dependent premium to the employee would be paying 25% of that instead of the 15%. And then scenario 4, I threw in there just for funsies to change our plan tier because we are at the richest benefit of our plan. So this would be an increase in deductibles for medical for everybody, while doing the, still passing on the dental dependent coverage to the employee, but keeping that 15% share of the medical to the employee. So it's sort of a combination of number two and then passing on more of that impact to everybody across the board, as opposed to a scenario two, the staff that will be impacted are the ones with dependent coverage. So I know that's a little confusing to talk through and everything. I'm hoping you had a chance to kind of look at this ahead of time. Do you have questions, thoughts, concerns?
One question, the staff would increase, certainly that's not the total participants in the program, only 10 staff.
Correct, that's the number with dependents on the plan.
Do you know that off the top of your head, the number of participants in the?
It's 24 or 25 or 24.
And do we get, I'm just curious, do we get any buying pool within Christian County or state government, or I didn't know where we
sort of,
lived
yes.
in the, are
We
we on the open market for these prices?
We use a Chamber of Commerce plan, so there's a buying pool within that. It's smaller businesses, so
Yeah.
to qualify for that, you have to have eligible employees of 50 or fewer, so. So there is another option that I think is maybe comparable to the chamber plan, that may be worth exploring if our costs get out of control in the future, but that could change providers, that could change a lot of things. So that's something like I would want to plan a lot ahead before we start delving into that, because of the potential impact to employees.
And is open enrollment in January or December?
It is in May.
Oh,
Yeah, we're on a weird, it's the chamber plan thing. June 1st is when the new year starts for that. So that's why it's more time sensitive.
I was thinking next year. That's next month.
Nope, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, are there any other questions?
No, I don't have any.
Okay. I would make a motion to approve the scenario 2 recommendations as presented.
Second.
I will take another roll call vote. Trustee Alexander.
Aye.
Trustee Hagan.
Aye.
The scenario number 2 is approved.
Thank you for the choices and detail.
More math there too.
Man, you're nailing it.
All right, so that brings us to the public comment section of our agenda. Per the board's public policy comment, as a general rule, the board will not respond to public comments at the time they are made. The board may ask clarifying questions, comment, or take action at their discretion. Questions for staff about library operations should be made during normal business hours. As usual, please help us to maintain decorum, have respect for your fellow speakers and audience members. We know emotions can sometimes run high, but please try to keep your voice at a respectful level. If any of the speakers or audience members become abusive or disrespectful, I will pause the comments and ask everyone to calm down. If disruptive or disrespectful language or behavior continues, you may be asked to leave the meeting. We also request that if you need to take a break during this portion of the meeting, that you go into the vestibule area in the back or over to the restroom, but that you don't go into the parking lot and then come back in. This helps our law enforcement officials to better monitor and ensure safety and security of the meeting for all of us. All right, as a final reminder, the public comment period is not more than 30 minutes total, including the time it takes to go back and forth from the podium. Each speaker is given 30 minutes to speak. A timer will go off when the time is up. If someone covers any ideas you would like to present and time is limited, feel free to yield your time when called to allow us to hear as many speakers as possible. I think we only have 7 commenters, so we should be in good shape. Give me just a moment, I'm not as organized.
I was late. Can I sign up? I didn't know.
No, we have that time slot before, but please feel free to come back. Next
This was my first time attending.
Welcome, welcome. All right, so our first speaker, oh gosh, I
Look forward to hearing from you next month if you're here.
I underestimated how difficult it is to say people's names correctly coming from Cincinnati. All right, Beth Holtz.
People don't even get echo right. So that's a dictionary.
Okay.
Mine's not an extremely hard name. My name is Beth Holtz, and I'm a Christian and a resident in Ozark. Please submit my public comments and handouts to the public record. I would like to read to you a letter that is on the ALA website. The 2024 Rainbow Book List is excited to present its selection of books catering to the LGBTQIA+ youth, spanning from birth to age 18. The compilation includes over 100 titles released between July 1st, 2022 and December 31st, 2023. It is critical that the Rainbow Book List and other book lists like it are made available to assist librarians, educators, caregivers, LGBTQIA+ members, and community allies in selecting quality books for LGBTQIA+ youth. As attacks against LGBTQIA+ books have become upsettingly frequent, it is important to fight for the inclusion of all stories in community libraries and schools. Our youth deserve to see themselves reflected in their literature. Unfortunately, this list will undoubtedly be misused by some to target, censor, and ban LGBTQIA+ stories. It is therefore up to all of us to rally behind the authors on this list and support, read, share, and discuss their books. Despite facing a significant surge in book challenges and censorship attempts over the past year, it is heartening to note that the availability of queer literature for youth is on a continuous rise. Yay! This past year, the Rainbow Book List Committee assessed more than 450 books, enabling us to continue to offer 2 distinct top 10 lists. The top 10 titles for young readers are tailored for readers from birth to middle school, while top 10 titles for teen readers cater to young adult audience. The Rainbow Book List is brought to you by the Rainbow Roundtable of the American Library Association. So this book of list was published on February 1st, 2024. As of yesterday, and I did the math here, CCL has 24% of the 111 books on this list. In the young adult age group, the percentage goes up to 34%, and the list was just published 2.5 months ago. I would like to urge the CCL to sever all ties with the ALA and MLA. We do not need to be associated with organizations that urge libraries to expose children to explicit materials and inject hard left politics and sexuality into publicly funded libraries. They are pushing their agenda onto the public and don't care who they hurt, which is the children, because they are targeting children from birth who can't even read. I also want to stress the fact that we are not asking to ban books, which is repeatedly brought up in these meetings. All we want is that these sexually explicit materials be relocated to where innocent children cannot have access to them. Once again, I ask that you listen to the majority of the community and take action.
All right, David Rice.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you so much.
All right. Please submit my comments to the record. In the library world for Missouri, there are 2 main choices when they want to network and share resources. This type of sharing is often called interlibrary loans. Mobius is typically for academic libraries, and only 4 public libraries in Missouri are in Mobius. The rest participate in Missouri Evergreen because they realize most of the patrons don't need to access rare academic texts. Also, the cost may be considerably lower. I spoke with Donna Bagan, Mobius's director. She replied to my email about the cost for a library with a collection, about the size of Christian counties, and with our circulation. I used their numbers they provided in their December meeting. She replied back with this email. The first year assessment for the size of library is $7,200. The 5-day per week courier also needs to be added, which is about $5,000, which brings the annual total to about a little over $12,000. These numbers are based on CCL numbers. For CCL, the cost range is right around $12K. CCL, however, varies the actual cost of Mobius in their budget and doesn't itemize. I think it is a fair question to ask what it would cost for CCL to move to Missouri Evergreen, below are the published costs listed for the libraries working with Missouri Evergreen. The top 5 costs are Scenic Regional Library, Jefferson County Library, Cass County Library, St. Joseph Public Library, and Trails Regional Library. These are the 5 libraries who spend the most. However, if you look at the record, many libraries spend considerably less overall. Webster County spends $26.36, Texas County spends $19.79, Stone County spends $30.84, Neosho Newton County spends $37.13. Perhaps they are the most similar to us, being near a larger city and county. Our library budget increased from $3.5 million to $4 million last year. The executive director is putting together reports on building expansions and repairs so they can put a bond issue in front of taxpayers for the next year. In the budget, it seems they cannot find the basic money for building maintenance and they expect bond issues to keep up the maintenance on repairs. I'm asking why we can't look at saving costs for the taxpayer. If Missouri Evergreen can do that, why aren't we considering it? Could it be because our executive director is a board member for Mobius? So when I was emailing Donna Bacon, she mentioned that Missouri Evergreen libraries are considering going into Mobius. It worries me that our public libraries are going to be asked to come up with even more money, maybe as little as $10,000 or $20,000 depending on their circulation and book collection. I'm going to skip a paragraph since I'm running out of space. How much more can we afford from our income though? Can you do another nickel, 10 cents, another dollar, $10? At what point does library taxation become theft? At what point do all the extra services end in our bankruptcy? Thank you for your time.
Before we call the next speaker, and because we have 7 speakers and not a full 10, I just wanted to bring to awareness to the board that the Missouri Evergreen discussion is being brought up in a future month. But as you can tell, we are down a couple of board members. We thought it would be prudent to ensure that this was a larger conversation.
Good.
Okay, back to public comment. Abigail Hope. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Abigail Hope. I come to you as a former member of the LGBT community. I want to talk about what was going on in the LGBT community that is not spoken publicly, and it's usually in secret. In the community, you get used. You get people always wanting to come at you, and your body doesn't really have a choice. But these books are coming in a young age. The books are coming in a young age. They're letting kids see what the pornography. They're letting kids see and read words about how their body is going to start being used for a choice, or that they're going to start being used. That is not right. That is not good for innocent little kids. And also in the community, you get told lies all the time. You get told you can go party. You get told that your parents don't love you if you don't, if you're not straight and everything. That is lies. Their parents are trying to protect us, and we need to stand against this. This is not right. It's not biblical, and we need to start letting children. If these books are going to be in the library, they need to be in their own little section to where the parents know where they are so that they can keep books away. But yeah, that's all I have for today.
Randy Sterner.
Randy Stern. I have no notes, we're just gonna wing this a little bit. Life slips by pretty quick. When you're in your 40s, your 50s, 80 plus seems like it's quite a ways down the road. When you're 80 plus, I look back, how did I get here? Heaven is forever, hell is forever. The choice is ours and yours. The choice is ours. Heaven forever, hell forever. The choices we make, the things we do on this earth, it's just a blip on the radar screen of eternity. So we need to make the right choices because we're all going to leave this earth. Heaven's forever, hell's forever. So you better make sure we have making the right choices and we're taking care of our kids. My kids are grown, so we're talking about grandkids and great grandkids for me. But some of these books are definitely not the right road. Amen.
Okay, Reggie Mitchum.
Good evening. I attended my first library meeting about 18 months ago. It was at Sparta. I did so because a lady in my church had brought me a book. I think it was entitled Not All Boys Like Blue or Wear Blue. And I looked at that and I said, where in the world did you get this? And she said, at her new library. And I thought, you're kidding me. And she said, no. I thought, I've got to go to the library. The board doesn't know what's in there. Boy, was I in for a surprise. I went to my first library meeting. There was probably 15, 18 people that was there. And I took my 3 minutes. I think they actually gave me close to 5 that time, first time that I spoke. And I was in for a surprise when I found out that the library board did know about it. And the library board had a very big part in ushering in, putting in these types of books. And I got to doing some research, run into about 4 other ladies that was interested in trying to get something done too. Here we are 18 months later, still working on it. I found books such as Heather Has Two New Mommies. There's a book that's called The Queer's Bible. There's a verse of scripture that says we're fearfully and wonderfully made. There's a book in the Sparta Library that says we're queerfully and wonderfully made. That's sick. It's close to blasphemy. Even if I'd say it probably is. I wouldn't want to be responsible for allowing such a book as that children could get their hands on. There's one called The Queer Ducks. Give me a break. I'm glad the roosters don't think like that. Us preachers will be out of fried chicken in a few months. And it started with about 40, and I think we went to over 200 of those books that's in there that the taxpayers are paying for. We brought in nurses, brought in counselors, we brought in other pastors, we brought in parents, just citizens. I figured out we're the majority. We're not the minority. How many here tonight are here for the same reason I am? Let me see. Look, library board, look at that. Safe to say 80%. And it's as though it goes in one ear and right out the other. It seems like you don't want to listen to anything that we have to say about this. Because of it, 2 of them lost their job. I don't know which one of you that it is, but I know there's another one that you're coming up real close for your time being up. But just let me say this, if you lose your job, don't blame us because we tried to work with you for 18 months.
Last month, when you were having a discussion about changing the policy to add video into the minutes, the conversation quickly changed to add video, but only if you took away documents submitted by the public. As you may remember, I was submitting a thick booklet last month that contained information that could not possibly be shared in the 3 minutes allotted for public comment. This included research and documentation of my concerns that I had invested hours of my own time and money to research and print. While you were having this policy discussion, I attempted to share a booklet with the board by raising it into the air and to let you know that I was willing to bring it to you as an example of information being submitted that was not a word-for-word transcript of public comment. The response I received for attempting to share this information was disrespectful and unacceptable. Allison raised her voice at me twice, snapping, "This is not public comment," while ironically then moving to a vote a moment later to further limit our public comment submissions. I am disappointed by that vote. You did not have time to think through how your vote would remove documents from the public minutes. You did not take time to discuss anything outside of a quick conversation, and you did not allow time for the public to give you input. And as if these things were not enough, Allison then moved on to remind the public a few moments later that we need to be respectful of the board and should not raise our voices at you, something that she had hypocritically just done to me. She also has made a strange request, which was echoed again tonight, the last few meetings, about not allowing people to come and go from the building, even suggesting that it's for safety reasons. We are concerned citizens, not vigilantes. Is our concern for children in our community really that much of a threat? I mean no disrespect when I bring my concerns to you all, but the way these board meetings have gone and the way this library has been run under current leadership shows a disdain for the people of this community. We have real issues to solve, and I want our library to be an amazing resource for our community as it once was, and I believe it will be again soon. Safe for children and reflecting the values of our community instead of reflecting the American Library Association's radical Marxist ideology. To reflect the values of your community, that first requires respectful discussion with the people of this community, something that's severely lacking. Understanding that the parental resource page and restricting children's library cards do not actually do anything of consequence, I wonder, and this question is not for echo, do you have any intention of working with the majority of Christian County citizens who would like to see a common sense approach that would flag, label, and relocate age-inappropriate and pornographic content away from the children's sections? Or do you view yourselves as being above reproach? And have you looked through or followed up on anything I've handed you? Have you reached out to Camden County Public Library to follow up on how their patrons have felt about their new policy?
Kevin Bright.
I want that in the public record.
Thank you.
Children's transgender clinics and unregulated recruiting material in our libraries. I want this material entered into the public record. New York Post. This is just little excerpts, little highlights out of these different publications. But anyway, medication to kids demanding gender transition or permanently harming them. James Reed at St. Louis Children's Hospital said she quit because I could no longer participate in what was happening there. Reed, who describes herself as a queer progressive and married to a trans man, she was struck by the lack of formal protocols for treatment, leaving physicians as the sole authority. According to a 15-year study in the Netherlands, Dutch experts have voiced their concerns over the potential adverse effects for minors who wish to transition. Sweden, Finland, United Kingdom, and France have all recognized the horrific national folly of allowing minors to transition medically. DailyMail.com in the UK. Dr. Polly Carmichael, 3-year trial of doing out of the drugs to 12 they were giving the child's transition drugs. They were doing to 12 to 14-year-olds, and that eventually led to children as young as 9 getting those same drugs. Dr. Heather Wood based a teenage girl's childhood interest in a train engine. That was the reason she gave that she should go on puberty blockers. Michael Weberly was struck off the UK medical register for a catalog of failings. 2 of those failings were a teenager and a 9-year-old that committed suicide because of what was done to them. Dr. J. Richards states, gender-affirming care is such an outrage leading to sterilization. There's no evidence that this helps minors long-term. History will judge this medicalized gender-affirming care on minors as we now judge eugenics and lobotomies. In the light of these researchers' and doctors' findings and conclusions, how can you in good conscience justify using taxpayer dollars to purchase and display unregulated children's books, which not only glorify this immoral, barbaric practice of child mutilation, but actually indoctrinate, encourage, and recruit children to this destructive lifestyle? in the long run, you will find yourselves on the wrong side of history. We're not going anywhere. We are here to defend the children in our community. This material is not acceptable. Mighty God, I ask you please forgive my nation, forgive my community, forgive me, Father. We repent and we seek your mercy. Amen.